Hey everybody, and welcome to the 18th episode of Brent Ewing's Hey Buddy podcast, and the second week of the Michigan Football podcast, where we talk obviously about Michigan football, but we also discuss the Big Ten in general. This week, obviously, we had a couple pretty marquee matchups with Michigan versus Michigan State and Penn State versus Ohio State. Obviously, the majority is going to be spent talking about Michigan State, but we talk a lot about the Buckeyes going into Happy Valley. My co-host again this week, Bub Dunn. Just want to tell you a little bit about Bub. I didn't really mention much last week, but outside of my folks, Bub has been my best friend for 30 plus years. We've experienced a lot of sports together. We've experienced a lot of life together. I had Michigan football season tickets for 7 years, and in the second year I started getting the season tickets. Bub came in with me, and he started going to the games. So we saw a lot of good football over those 6 years and a lot of bad football over those 6 years. So it's fun just to get on here and kind of shoot the breeze with my buddy and be able to talk about something that we're passionate about, being Michigan football. But it's great to have him on. Hopefully within the next few weeks, we're also going to have his sons, Casey and Adam, on to maybe give their predictions and see how that goes. But I'm proud that Bub's on here with me. Finally get him on the podcast after so many episodes. But we're also going to expand it out into Michigan basketball too, so it's coming around the corner here pretty soon. A lot of hope there. Jahan's put together some really good recruiting classes, so it's going to be fun to talk about Michigan basketball as well. But for today's show, guys, we're going to delve into the Michigan State game, Penn State, Ohio State. We're also going to discuss Harbaugh and his future at Michigan. I'm going to give my opinion on what I think, whether he should stick around or not. So here it is, guys, the 18th episode of Brent Ewing's Hey Buddy podcast. All right, man. Well, hey, welcome. Week 2, not what we had hoped for, but here we are. I got some good feedback about week 1, so hopefully people enjoy this week 2. But what'd you think? You went back and listened. What'd you think about week 1? How'd you feel?
I felt pretty good about it. Not gonna lie, I was a little nervous, to do it just because I hadn't done anything like that. But I had fun. It was a good time. Great talking to you, and great getting to talk about football in general, especially Michigan football. So I really did enjoy it.
Good deal, man. Well, hey, let's just hop right into it this week. Obviously we thought we were going to be talking about a big Michigan win and a big rivalry game, but unfortunately that didn't turn out. Michigan State comes into the big house and basically puts a whooping on us. 27-24, comes out of there with a big win. Mel Tucker, first time in the big house. And just totally out-game planned Harbaugh, Gaddis, Brown. Like, he put on a coaching clinic, basically. I mean, we can go to the start of the game. We can do whatever you want to talk about, man. It's so frustrating going back and nitpicking the game apart, as I have, and I'm sure you have too. But just initial thoughts, going into the game, I know you felt good. I felt good. What the heck happened?
I think Michigan fans as a whole felt good. You've got a Michigan State team who took a couple punches on the chin the week before, and came in to the big house. Mel Tucker, first game, in the big house, first rivalry game, and all I can say is props to them for getting beat like they did, and then coming in and sticking to their game plan, not letting down, and just getting after it. I mean, they played a great game. They stuck to what was working. Throwing the ball, we've got to work on a lot when it comes to our defense. The wide receivers, they killed us. Absolutely killed us. Ricky White just had an absolute monster of a day. And there was a couple times that they ran the ball, and I'm like, why are you even running the ball? Why would you not just keep throwing it up like you have been, and either catching it for 40-yard gain or getting a pass interference call?
Right. Yeah, man.
Because the corners couldn't cover.
Ricky White comes in. He's a three-star true freshman coming in. Has the biggest game. He's only played a couple games, but has the biggest game of his life. And we couldn't stop him. Vincent Gray poor kid got embarrassed all day long. Don Brown kept running him out there, putting him on an island, not giving him help. and they just kept exploiting it. And when he finally did pull Gray and put in the Perry kid, Jalen Perry, it was just more of the same. Jamon Green, they all just kept getting burnt all day long, and it was, Lombardi. You look at his numbers, and it wasn't great. He completed, I think, less than 50% of his passes, or right at 50%. I think he was like 17 for 32 or 33.
Yeah, right.
But man, just throwing balls up, and even the ones that weren't completed, you're getting a pass interference call, and just all day long, no adjustments were made, and they just kept going to the well. And I'm with you. Why would you even try to run the ball? If you're getting that play every time, run that play every time.
Yeah, exactly. And there were a couple, penalties that I thought were iffy. There were a couple blatantly obvious pass interference calls, but some were, you could have went both ways. And the big thing I had was there was a couple pass interference calls that weren't called, I felt, again, for Michigan. And not that you could, for the most part, say, hey, one call makes a game, but sometimes that is the case. When you lose 27-24 and, you might have, maybe 20 yards to go, 30 yards to go to get into field goal range, one call could make a big difference.
Sure. That was one of those games. That was one of those games that, even looking back at it, there's not one play. I would maybe at the end when that the catch was iffy. They could have went back. Did that ball hit the ground or not? We shouldn't have been in that position. Again, you're coming in Harbaugh year 6. Mel Tucker's coming in first time in the rivalry. You're coming off a big win against what appeared to be a decent Minnesota team. We'll get into that later. And Michigan State coming in off of just a demoralizing loss to Rutgers, 7 turnovers. And they come in and play mistake-free football. Lombardi had all day. There were, no turnovers. We had no pressure on the quarterback. They just came in and did what they wanted. It wasn't pretty, but man, it got the job done.
You're absolutely right. Like you said, no pressure on the quarterback. From what I thought from last week was a pretty good pass rush. Man, we couldn't do anything. They didn't even get hardly hands on Lombardi. He had all day to throw the ball.
Right, not one sack.
No, none. It was a pretty terrible showing, honestly, for our defense.
And with year 6 and Harbaugh's you got to win those games. It seems like the team was flat. Dad watched the game with me, and he kept saying, man, I need some more emotion. I need some more emotion out of this quarterback. And I get Milton's still young. It's his second start. But there were times when he would run and he would scramble for a first down, and he would get up, and nobody was excited. They just walked back to the huddle. Right. There was no cheering. It was like, oh, ho-hum, on to the next play. It's like, guys, come out with some fire. I didn't see that fire there. And for Harbaugh in year 6, he's now 3-8 versus 2 biggest rivals, Michigan State and Ohio State. 1-6 against them at home. 1-6 against them at the Big House. Like, what the heck is going on? Michigan State, I thought we had turned that corner where the whole little brother, big brother thing was going to be back into effect, and we were going to be, that program again. But I'll tell you what, man, Michigan State's beat us 9 out of the last 13 years. 9 out of 13. Like, I think that big brother, little brother thing, we got to put that to rest. It's not working. I don't know.
I agree.
But gut reaction, obviously, the gut reaction after the game is, man, everybody's got to go. You need to fire the whole crew. You need a complete new staff with an overhaul. And I know a lot of people jump to that at first, and then, okay, if we'd have had this conversation last night, my words might be different, but had 24 hours to think about it. And I'll tell you what, man, my mind hasn't changed. I'm completely off of the Harbaugh train.
He was getting roasted on the internet.
And he should have. I made,
Oh, for sure.
I didn't make excuses for the guy, but I thought, he's a good coach. He's a good coach. Who else are we going to get right now? He's going to bring him back. He's slowly starting to implement the offenses that he wants. He's getting his recruits. He's finally got his recruit as a quarterback. But after yesterday, man, it's not working, and it's not going to work, in my opinion. I don't like what I'm seeing. Gaddis, for whatever reason, called just a flat game yesterday. Did not make any adjustments. We have small running backs besides Haskins. Why are you running the ball up the middle? It's not working. You want speed in space, right? Well, let's run some sweeps. Let's run some stuff to the outside. Nope, up the middle, up the middle, up the middle. It's like, stop being stubborn. It's not working. Let's do something that's working. When they got Corum outside, it worked. But you did it 2 or 3 times, and then you just went away from it. So I don't know what Gaddis was thinking after calling a pretty good game at Minnesota the week before. What were your thoughts on that? Seeing his play calls. Were you thinking the same thing I was? I mean, were you just scratching your head?
Oh, for sure. Last week I was pretty happy with the play calling. I thought it was a good mix, run and pass, run to the outside. We were getting good runs up the middle, and then opening up the side, taking shots down a little bit down the field. Looking at this past, Saturday's game, the first run for Corum to the touchdown, where did it go? It went to the outside.
Right.
Where did the second touchdown come from? It went to the outside. I thought, for the most part, we were past the run up the middle on first down for a yard, repeat. Now you've got 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. That was 2-3 years ago. I felt like, hey, we were done with that. But it seemed like it just came rushing back yesterday. No runs hardly at all to the outside, other than a few, touchdown runs. And I don't understand that, because when they did run the ball out there, it did work. And I'm fine with running the ball up the middle to keep the defense guessing. But don't just keep running up the middle when you're getting nowhere. You've got to be able to run up the middle. You've got to be able to run up the side to open up the running or the passing game.
Right.
And to me, they just did not do that. The other thing that honestly was driving me crazy was, and it could be just because he's young and he's inexperienced, but there were no shots downfield. None.
That's the concern.
Especially on that. And, I might be jumping ahead in the cast and everything, but that last drive that they had, you may have turned your TV off. I don't remember, but no passes downfield whatsoever. I mean, it was constant dink, dunk, 5-yard passes, and they had like three almost 4 minutes on the clock,
right?
And ended up running it down to less than a minute before they scored.
Right.
I mean, you have wasted pretty much the whole. You've wasted any chance that you could have to score, and then even get the ball back to possibly force a punt to get to get another drive.
And it's all coaching,
just
man.
by not, absolutely, by not taking shots down the field. And I know Michigan State was probably going prevent and just saying, hey, don't let anything pass this, keep it in front. That's fine, but you take what you can get, but you don't have to continuously run 5-yard passes. You can run a little further and get out of bounds.
That's what concerned me about this group of wide receivers. I understand we have the speed and space. That's what you want. But, man, you got one wide receiver that's over 6 feet tall. You need that guy who can go down and maybe grab a jump ball. And I'm afraid that without that there, that's not going to happen. So that's why it takes these little dinky and dunking kind of passes and, okay, let's chew up 4 or 5 minutes when we need a 2-minute drill. And again, no urgency. There was no urgency on anybody's face. And that's the frustrating part, because that's all lack of discipline. That's all stemming from the top. That's all stemming from Harbaugh. And that's super frustrating. But going back to the running back core, coming out of camp, that was what we heard. Hey, man, this running back room is phenomenal. Well, what the heck are they doing, man? We had Haskins. Haskins led the game with 8 carries. And then you had Corum and Charbonnet both with 5. Evans had 3, and then you had the freshman Henning who had 1. Like, what are you doing? I get you want to get everybody a few touches, but they pretty much, Charbonnet had a 70-yard run to open the season, and since then I think he's got like 9 carries maybe. Like, I just don't understand what you're doing. I get you want to get everybody in, but you have to get a set. Okay, here's my number 1, here's my number 2. We got to get them touches. We got to get them going. If you don't, you got to get 1 or 2 people going to get everybody going. Because if you don't get anybody going, that's a problem. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you've got to have that one guy you can go back on and say, look, it's time. We need you here. We need you to carry this load. We'll take you in and out. We'll get you a break here and there. But you have got to put this on your shoulder and push this ball down the field when we need you to. Right. And they don't really have that yet. I mean, I think Haskins could carry it. He's the bigger guy, like you said. I think he could carry it and grind out those big yards. And I don't know if it's just them not wanting to put him in there to do it, or if that situation really hasn't presented itself. I thought it would have presented itself, yesterday, but
Absolutely.
apparently it didn't come to play.
Just frustrating, man. When you have your running backs carrying the ball 22, 23 times, you can't have that. And then you have Milton, I think he carried another 12 himself. But, switching over to him, there were times he would run the ball, and you even texted me on one where it was a big 3rd and like 8 or 9, and he runs out of bounds after like a 7-yard pickup. It's like, dude, you're 6'5", 240. You got to bowl straight ahead. And my dad said the same thing. You got to go ahead, man. You got to try to pick up that first down. But instead, he runs out of bounds. You have to punt. Like, you can't do that. That's where that whole, I know it's going to come with experience, but I don't like what I'm seeing in that category. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Completely agree. And my big thing there, and I know I did send you a message on that play, I think it was 3rd and 9, and he maybe had 7 or 8, but he just went out of bounds. Not one time he didn't lower his shoulder. Not only did he not do that, but he could see where the flag was. Like, you could see where the sticks were. When you see that, you go for it. He didn't reach the ball out. He didn't lower the shoulder. He didn't do anything. He just, there's a defender right there. I'm just going to go out of bounds. I mean, dude, it's 3rd and 9. That could be a big play where you don't have to punt the ball. Again, we lost by 3.
Right.
What if that was, to get you another first down to get into field goal range or anything?
Man, but go back to earlier, go back what we were talking about with the play calling, and obviously the big play that stands out is, why are we getting fancy from the 4-yard line? You have a guy who's 6'4", 240, so we run a wildcat, which I hate the wildcat offense. I absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
Not only do you run it once, but you run it twice, and you have Haskins throw a pass that, all was wide open, or it wasn't even all. It was the backup tight end, wide open, and you put a little bit more air on that ball, and it's a touchdown. But it shouldn't have come to that. You have a 6'4", 240 quarterback. If you run the ball up the middle twice from the 4-yard line. If you can't get 12 feet, well, then you don't deserve it.
I completely agree.
You don't take your best player out when the game's on the line. I'm not saying Milton's the best player, but he's the biggest body. You don't take him out, or even hand off to Mason twice in a row. Like, that dude's a beast. Hand him the ball. Let him run up the middle. But kudos to Antoine Simmons, man. Let's talk about this kid for a minute. This kid
he saved that game.
Right, the kid from Ann Arbor, went to school, Pioneer High School, right across the street from the stadium. Dude saved the game with just that half an inch that he got up off the ground, man, to tip that ball. Because that's the game right there. And I'll tell you,
Absolutely.
Talking about him for a minute, dude, again, kudos to him. He wanted to have a big day, and he had a big day with that deflection, saving that touchdown. He was in on 11 total tackles for the game, so kudos to that kid. Good for him. Good for him. You hate to see it, but good for him. He come home
I hate
and
to
he
see
did.
it at all, but yeah, I completely agree with you. That kid had an absolutely amazing day. It was constantly Simmons on the tackle, Simmons with pass breakup, Simmons getting in there in the backfield. I was like, dude, is every player on their team named Simmons?
Right.
That's what it felt like. He just had an amazing day, and I really think, that play where he did jump and just get that tip just enough, that could have been the play of the game.
Absolutely.
And going back, like you said, if you don't take, Milton may not be the best player, but A, he's your quarterback. B, he's 6'5", 245. So if you really want to run go wildcat, don't even bother with a wildcat. You got a 6'5", 245 quarterback. If you want to run the ball or fake it like an old Tim Tebow, like to, run and then throw it, do it with your quarterback.
Right.
Do it with the guy who's 6 inches taller than Haskins, or 5 inches. I don't know how much taller he is. But the guy who actually throws the ball on a normal basis.
Sometimes it's like these offensive coordinators, they try to get too cute instead of doing what works.
They do.
And I don't understand it. I don't get it. Terrible play calling. If it would have worked, would I have been like, hey, great play calling? Probably. But it didn't work. Hindsight, you're like, man, when you can get in there, you take the points. But let's skip one over to Milton a little bit. He threw 51 passes in this game. Your second.
I don't remember that.
Your second start ever. Michigan doesn't throw that many times. Going back to Chad Henne. Henne might have had a couple games in the 40s, or he might have reached 50, but I can't remember the last time a Michigan quarterback threw 51 times. Maybe
I don't.
Maybe they have, and I just haven't noticed. But he completed 32 of those for 300 yards. But again, none of them were downfield.
No,
They were all dink and dunk. The one positive, he's not turning the ball over, so he's not trying to force
that,
anything.
that is true.
He's
I
holding
agree
on to
with
the
that.
ball. But my biggest complaint is why his I think Eric All. Why do you continue to target him? Is it because he's the biggest target you have? He's bigger than any of the wide receivers. Obviously, he's a tight end. They're usually bigger anyway. I get it, but why do you keep going after him? I don't understand it. He's proven that he's not going to come through in the clutch so far in 2 games. So I don't know what's going on with Eubanks. If he's still hurt, if there's some disciplinary problems, but you gotta have Eubanks in that situation.
Yeah, I agree. And Eubanks was in a little bit. I saw him in the game a little bit. I can't remember if he had a catch or
I think
not.
he had one catch.
Okay. So I mean, it must not be a academic situation where he's not allowed to play. If he was playing, I don't know if they feel that All is just a better athlete, a better catches. Maybe he catches the ball great in practice, but he hasn't shown that in the game.
I don't know.
But
What I'm seeing so far in 2 games, I'm not a fan. Again,
yeah,
I don't understand it. Eubanks came back this year when he could have left. He came back, and I had big hopes. But man, if you're not gonna,
me too.
if you're not gonna target him, I mean, get that morale up a little bit, get him in the game, show him, hey, we trust you. We're gonna get the ball to you. But anyway, what were your thoughts on Milton overall? Again, no turnovers in the first 2 games, which is a positive. But overall, what are your thoughts so far through 2 games on Joe Milton? Do you feel there was the hype coming in, then he played well last week. Obviously, that hype kind of fell off a little bit this week. But what are your thoughts? Do you think he's kind of where you thought he would be? Is he better? Is he worse?
I mean, last week you could have said just about anything. Great game. Obviously they won by a pretty substantial margin, and he looked good. Maybe was it because he didn't have the turnovers that we are used to seeing in our younger quarterbacks? Could have been, and even yesterday he didn't have any turnovers. I mean, kudos for him for 2 games, not throwing a pick, not losing a fumble. That's just seems like it's something we're not used to, because it seems like it's always, oh, there's a pick or there's a fumble in these high energy big game moments. So in that aspect, I will say I'm happy with him not turning the ball over. My big thing is I would love to just see more throws down the field. I don't know if that's just strictly play calling. I don't know if that is a coach's decision, or if it's something where he is just he doesn't want to make that mistake of throwing the ball deep, and getting the pick. And here's my thing: I don't care if you throw the ball deep, especially on a 3rd down, and they pick it, because that's pretty much just like a punt.
Right.
Take your chance. But it could be play calling. It could be that's the way they want to do it right now, until they get him settled into the game a little more. But I just feel like I would love to see him take a few more shots down the field. For one, just get that big play, get that momentum. But 2, that keeps the defense back.
Yeah.
And if you can't move the defense, those safeties back, then they're just going to come up and bust you in the run. And then you're not going to run anywhere.
That's where Nico
But
Collins.
overall,
That's where Nico Collins
yes.
opting out really hurts us, because he's that big body that you can stretch the field, and right now you just can't. You can't stretch it. Ronnie Bell's kind of the number 1 receiver, and man, he's got the dropsies. He can't catch. He can't make that big catch. He'll get you to the 1 or 2 yard line. Can't find the end zone. I'm not sold on him, but I'll tell you my bright spot for the game, Roman Wilson, the freshman out of Honolulu.
Yep.
I thought he looked really good. Made some big catches. I thought, maybe this kid will step up. He had 5 catches for 71 yards. I like that. But again, we need that deep threat, man, and we just don't have it.
They don't. And as much as I hate to say it, because it seems like with the shorter receivers that we have, like you said, just like one guy over 6 foot, you would think that they would have speed upon speed, with these little guys. But where are they at? I mean, are we just playing teams that just have amazing corners and safeties that actually do help?
I mean,
Like ours.
our DBs are known to be handsy, and that's Don Brown kind of teaches that.
Yeah,
But it's
and I'm fine with that.
but it's to the point of blatantly obvious. Like if we could clone Dax Hill and put him everywhere, because Dax Hill, great game. Do we kind of move him into that Vincent Gray spot? I don't know, but he had a heck of a game, man. He's really matured in year two. But he's one guy on that defense, and he can't cover everybody, unfortunately.
He can't.
And those guys they have back there they just aren't doing the trick, man. They aren't doing the job.
I agree. And this is, I don't know what the deal is, but I swear, watching that game and listening to it, I don't remember hearing our safeties' names being called whatsoever.
Right.
The only thing I can remember is, that wide receiver just, caught a 40-yard pass, beat Vincent Gray, beat, whoever's on the other side, beat the linebacker they were lined up against. Where's the safety help?
That's the thing.
There's no safety help. So what are they actually doing?
Right. That's tough. Linebackers can't cover guys out of the backfield. They can't cover a running back coming out or a tight end. That's tough. So you have to have that good safety play. And if they're not there, you're in trouble. And that's what happened. We were in trouble. And poor Vincent got picked on all day. And that was one of the worst. That was Boubacar Sissoko style. That was one of the worst. Right? That was one of the worst,
That was terrible.
defensive games I've ever seen. And it's so frustrating. For years I've been talking about our DBs. They don't turn their head around. They don't find the ball. Even if you don't make a pick or don't, get your hand on it, get your hand up to impede that wide receivers field of vision. You have to turn and find the ball, and they just don't do that. And it's constant. It's been constant for a decade. I don't understand it. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
With all that hype.
You're right. It has been that way for, like you said, about a decade. It seems like it's constantly, if they actually, the wide receiver doesn't catch the ball for the most part, it's probably because they were interfered with.
Right. And it's hard to say, Don Brown's done a great job for us in certain aspects. You go back, you look at our defenses the past 5 years, our defenses have been fairly good.
One, 2, 3, something like that.
However,
I mean, they've been really good.
However, when you play those teams who game plan for it, they pick him apart, and he cannot make adjustments. The bowl games are an example. Ohio State game's an example. Michigan State game. It's like, dude, that's cool. You can beat the Rutgers and the Indianas and the Marylands. That's cool, and you can put up great numbers. That's nice. But until you can do it against your big rivals, what does it mean? Like, it's cool you can stop them on first and second down, but if you can't stop a 3rd and 11, it's worthless. It's meaningless. You got to put your guys in a position to succeed. Go run a zone scheme. You see your poor guy left out there on the island getting burnt time after time after time. Change it up. Change it up. I don't know if they're too stubborn or what, but it's something has to change.
I agree. It's very aggravating, and just it reminds me of kind of going back, a few years to a constant. Like we would get 3rd and 11, 3rd and 14, 3rd and 17, and I remember me and you would text, it's 3rd and 14, we're going to give up 17.
Right. And
that seems like about what happens. It's just like it just, for some reason, that's the way it goes. And I remember yesterday's game, laying there watching it, and when we had a punt that went down to 2-yard line maybe, 1-yard line, it was later in the game. Chris was laying there, sitting there beside me watching it, and I said, you watch this. I said, this is how this is going to play out. I said, it's either going to be they're going to try to run the ball up the middle to get just a little bit of space, and the second play will be a throw downfield, which will be caught. I said, or they're just going to do it right off the bat. They're just going to come out and go for it and throw it down the field, and it's going to be caught for like a 40, 50-yard play. I think they ran up the middle and then threw it. Catch 40, 45 yards, I don't remember. I looked at her and I was like, there you go.
Right. And they take that play, they take that 98 yards and score a touchdown out of it.
Exactly. And I'm like, so when you run the ball up the middle and they maybe got a yard, right there, do you not think, hey, maybe they're going to take a shot here? So why don't we give some safety help? I don't even know if we had a safety on the field because I don't remember seeing them. But it's aggravating because, like you said, they play on an island. They bring those safeties down in to help stop the run. They don't run the ball 100% of the time. So pull a safety back every now and then and let them help.
Right, man. Right, I'm with you. It's just so frustrating. Again, it's year 6 of Harbaugh. I was so excited when they hired him. He was coming off, coming in hot off the NFL gig. I thought, man, this guy's going to turn it's going to take a bit because he inherited a pretty crappy, program, but he's going to turn it around. He's going to get us back on the right track. But year 6, man, and to me, it's not been successful. I mean, you look at what he did. You look at the 6 years before Harbaugh came there. This program was 43-33. 43-33, so 57% winning percentage in the 6 years previous to Harbaugh, which that's just, for Michigan football, that's atrocious. That's unacceptable. Well, Harbaugh's come in, he's 48-19, which is a 42, so I'm sorry. He's 48-19, which is a 72% winning percentage, which, taking it from a 57% to 72, most places, that's great. But not here.
Most places, yeah, that is great. But when you're talking about, you're walking to the winningest program in football history, and a program that has prided itself on winning the Big Ten and winning these, being the most winningest program and being able to beat some of these other bigger teams. And right now, they cannot do it. And I'm sorry, but thank God, and I hope that they figure something out, because if our DBs and safeties play the way that they did yesterday against Ohio State, they might put up 80 points or more.
Absolutely. And we'll talk a little bit about that.
And I hate to say that, but it's the daggone truth. I mean, it's just the way it is. They will light them up. It will be, they were throwing 40, 50-yard passes. It'll be 80, 90-yard touchdown run throws all game long.
I'm with you, man.
Because they cannot cover them.
Right, and we're going to talk about the Buckeyes a little bit here in a little while, but go back to the program, and I think there's a big issue with, like you said, it's a program that's prided itself on the past, and that's the problem. We're living in the past. Our fans are living in the past. We're not elite. We haven't been.
It's almost like we're Cowboys fans.
I mean, it's sad, dude. We're not elite anymore. It's I went back and did a little bit of research, and from 1981 to the year 2000, the program was 182, 56, and 5. Right, so they won 75% of their games. One national title in that. Bo was a great coach. Bo never won a national title, being there for his tenure from 69 to 89.
Yep.
But from 81, from basically our lifetime to when we were born 81, 82 to 2000, had a 75% winning percentage. But over the last 20 years, they're 158-85 for a 65% winning percentage. 65%, Michigan, right? So this whole idea of, we got to get Michigan men in there. We got to, we're the leaders. We're the best. We're like, no, dude. It's time for a change. It's time to stop resting on those laurels of those old, all those wins. A majority of those wins came before our parents were even born. So it's time to stop. It's time to stop with that.
I completely agree.
Let's segue that into, what is your thoughts, Harbaugh? Are you on the train still? Do you think there needs to be a change, either offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, or do you think there needs to be a complete overhaul? Let's talk about that a little bit.
I'll go into that. Going back to what you just said, as far as the last 20 years, it's been a struggle. And it seems like really after Wood Carr, that's where it kind of started, obviously, the downfall. And, I've read that one book that you told me about. It's a really good book, actually. I can't remember the name of it. Got it over there. I'll look at it here in a minute. But it seemed like right about the time Rodriguez started in there, I mean, you take, what he went, 3-8? Or 3-9? 3-9, yeah, his first season. And not much, 5-7, I think, the next season. So that kind of started the trickle down effect as far as kind of your winning percentage down there. And then, Brady Hoke kind of got it up a little bit better. I really like the Brady Hoke. Just, you talk about being the Michigan man and hiring the Michigan man, and I like that. It's a feel-good story. I like them hiring a Michigan guy. I like Harbaugh because he's a Michigan guy. He went there. I thought that he got it. I thought that he would understand the rivalry and bring it back to say, you don't lose to Michigan State. You don't lose to Ohio State. You don't lose to those big rivals. You do anything and everything that you can to win those games, because that is Michigan football. Yeah, you're going to you very seldom does someone have a perfect season. You're going to lose a game. You're going to have some ups and downs in the season, but you do everything that you can possibly to win those games. As far as Harbaugh goes, I like the guy. I do like the intensity. He hasn't really impressed me super, a whole lot. He's had his good times. He's had his bad times. Yeah, as far as Gaddis goes, he's been there, this is his second year. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty happy with Gaddis as far as being an offensive coordinator. I do like the way he does his offense as far as he's got a little more movement, a little more speed out in space. Not so much a power I formation, run up the middle like it has been, 2-3 years ago. Now, obviously, yesterday wasn't a great testament to what he has done, but it's going to take a little time. But as far as Gaddis goes, I'm pretty happy with the way he has performed in his role. Don Brown, I really like Don Brown. I like Don Brown to the place where he is aggressive. Do I want his corners to hold on to the wide receiver every single play? No, not really. Because eventually, like yesterday, they're going to call it continuously. But I like the aggressiveness. I like the blitzing. Do I like the way he does not adjust to anything? No. Just like yesterday. You're getting crushed on the outside. What do? Nothing. He did nothing. Not one time did he pull his safeties back to a 2 deep and let them spot on their outside receiver to make any adjustments whatsoever.
I think, for me, again, I've been not a Harbaugh apologist, but I've been a fan. I thought, like you said, this guy played there. He had success there. Him and Bo were like family. I thought he was going to bring that back to Michigan, and maybe he has in a way, maybe he has in a way. But as far as the winning, I'm off the train, dude. I'm off the wagon. I'm ready for him to go. I know he has, I think, 2 years left on his contract. If it were me, and I talked a little bit about this yesterday, I would go ahead and start making an exit strategy. And even if somehow you could talk, and I'll give you a few candidates that I have in mind that might be, somebody that could come in and take over. But if it were me, the last game of the year this year, I read a lot of stuff online where people were saying it's a must-win. If he doesn't win that game, he's got to go. He's got to go now. He's not going to win that game. Game planning for a average Michigan State team yesterday, coming into the big house, and they just picked you apart. What are you going to do against Ryan Day going into the shoe? You're going to get murdered. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be very ugly.
Agree with that.
So I had mentioned yesterday, I'm like, dude, the week of the game, the week before the game, you announce he's done. He's done. That way, some of that sting, some of the attention maybe goes off of the shellacking you're going to take, and it goes to the. No, seriously, because you're going to get killed. So
I agree, yeah.
Just go ahead.
You can at least say, "Oh well, we didn't have our head coach. Harbaugh wasn't there."
Not even for excuse purposes. Just for the fact to take some of that talk away from how bad the game's going to be. Okay, it's going to happen. It's going to be very ugly. But now we're looking for another coach. Let's get it in place for next year. It's going to hurt recruiting maybe a little bit because he has recruited decently, but I'm done with him. Unfortunately, again, I like him. He's a little quirky, obviously, but I think he after the first 2 years when they lost, to Ohio State his second year, they could have won that game late. Something happened to him, man. His fire, his intensity, everything's gone. You watch him on the sidelines, and it's just like ho hum. It's not the same guy. Gaddis, like you said, to implement a new system, man. You got to give the offensive coordinator time. So I'm okay with him. If we brought in a new coach, I'm okay with Gaddis if they wanted to retain him, keeping him for a couple years, letting him get his players in place, doing what he does. Because I think he's talented. He's young enough. He's a good recruiter. I really like him a lot. Don Brown, I think with Brown, if you're going to keep him on, then you need to bring in somebody to that he can bounce ideas off of. You have to bring in another co-defensive coordinator. You can't just keep giving him the reins all by himself because, man, those adjustments he's not making are killing us. Like I said, he plays big against smaller teams, but when Michigan State comes to town, when Wisconsin comes to town, when Ohio State comes to town, go to a bowl game, these teams, I mean, it's embarrassing. He's getting lit up, big game after big game. So would I be upset if they let him go? No. If they want to keep him, I think you got to bring somebody else in to be like a co-defensive coordinator with him.
Like I'm all for the blitzing and the pressure that he puts on, but it seems like you should not have to bring 9 guys,
right?
Or 8, at least 8. If they got 3 wide, 3 corners out there, you should not have to bring 8 guys to get pressure on a quarterback. When I see teams doing it with 3 and 4 people at a time.
Yeah.
And then their safety can back up to help and actually possibly pick off a ball or 2.
I mean, man, is it something just as simple as technique? Like, are they just teaching terrible technique? What the heck is going on? It's not like you're getting 2- and 3-star kids. You're getting some pretty big high 4-star kids on that offensive defensive lines. And it's like, how come these guys offensively can't get a push, and defensively, how come they can't get a push? They can't get in there. I don't get it, man. I don't get it.
I agree. And looking back at last week compared to this week, I felt like we pressured the quarterback very well. They got in the backfield well. Even with just a few people, it seemed like Hutchinson and Quiddy Pay were in there the all game last week. They didn't really do anything yesterday. Now, is that a difference between a good offensive line, a decent offensive line, and a really good offensive line that Michigan State had yesterday? Or, is that play call and the wrong schemes, picking the wrong gaps? I don't know. I'm not a defensive coordinator, but
it's frustrating.
Obviously, whatever it was they were doing was not working, which aggravates me even more to the fact that, hey, why didn't we change something?
Yep.
Why didn't you're going 4-3 with safeties that are non-existent? Why not mix it up and throw a 5-2, put an extra a pass rusher in there, and pull your safeties back and try something different? Anything that there's no reason to keep beating a dead horse and doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. That's insanity, and that's pretty much what I felt like I watched yesterday.
I couldn't.
A bunch of insanity.
I couldn't believe it. It was to a point. It was so frustrating. Again, man, I think that's why I'm just off the Harbaugh wagon. I think it's time for him to go. And we'll segue that into a couple candidates that I would love to see come in there. It's most likely not going to happen. I'm not reaching realistic and saying, man, let's go get Nick Saban. Let's go get, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he ain't going nowhere.
To circle back for a second, what we talked about earlier and how the program has fallen off. It's since Bo passed away, man. It's not been the same. It just hasn't. When Lloyd left, the guy for that job was Les Miles. Les Miles should have been the next coach at Michigan. If you read the books that John Bacon's put out and a couple other guys, they say he was never offered that job. Les Miles had come out and said, "Look, I would have taken it. I was never offered that job." And from what I heard, it was Les just said, "Hey, let me play in the bowl game. As soon as the bowl game is over, I will be your coach." And they didn't want to wait. At the time they said, "Nope, let's go," and they jumped on the Rich Rodriguez bandwagon, and that set this program back 20 years. And Les Miles was the answer. That was when he was in his prime, coaching wise.
I agree.
Great recruiter, did great things at LSU. When they failed to get him, the program went backwards to a point where it's not recovered. And I don't know when or if it will, unfortunately. But there's a couple young guys out there. The first one that comes to mind, dude, if it were me, I would back the Brinks truck up. I would go at the end of the year and I would get a hold of Brent Venables. I would say, dude, what do you want? We want you here. You know, he's 49 years old, right? Nation's top assistant a couple years ago. He's a great recruiter. Would he leave Clemson? I don't know. But, you know, he's won two national titles at Clemson. Again, the dude, he's a genius. Everybody loves him in the business. They're like, this guy should be a head coach. Now, maybe he doesn't want to be a head coach, but I would do whatever I could to get in touch with this cat and be like, what do you need? What do you want? You know, get somebody in there that's a little bit more defense-oriented right off, who, I don't know if you notice the defensive guys at Clemson, which you probably do. These guys are studs, man. Every year they're getting the top 2 or 3 recruiting classes. These kids are coming in and just, they're unbelievable, which is obvious by their 2 national titles the last few years.
Right.
He would be my number 1 pick. I would you know, throw whatever at him because I think he's more realistic than the next guy on my list. Which after watching this game last night and how much fun it was to watch Oklahoma play Texas Tech last night, and seeing Lincoln Riley, dude. Lincoln Riley, I think he's 37 years old. I think he's got, maybe after last night, a 40-8 record or something like that. 39-8 or 40-8 record. I want that in Ann Arbor, dude. It's to a point where I know I'm going to contradict myself a little bit because I said bringing Venables in is more defense-oriented, but you got to have a high-powered offense to win anymore. It's not good defenses beat good offenses because, you know, you look at Ohio State, they have a good defense, you know, year in, year out, but they're scoring 50, 60 points. You got to score to win. And that's what I love about Lincoln. His game planning is amazing. I know he just signed like a new 6-year deal with Oklahoma. I think he's got a couple buyout clauses after like year 2 and year 5 or year 3 and year 5, something like that. But my goodness, I would love to have something like that in Ann Arbor. A couple other guys on my list, I put down Jeff Scott, which is Clemson's co-offensive coordinator. He was the 24/7 or 247 recruiting coordinator of the year, 247 Sports if you're ever on there. But this dude's young. I mean, he's a co-offensive coordinator at Clemson. These guys, if you watch Clemson play any, man, they know how to move the ball up and down the field. So I like him. Obviously, we talked about PJ Fleck last week. I mean, PJ's young enough. He's not even 40 yet. He's 23-17, 2-time MAC Coach of the Year, Big Ten Coach of the Year last year. Yeah, they started off slow this year, but the guy's got what it takes to be a big-time coach, I think. And then one that other people are throwing around that I can never see happening, but he's doing just crazy things in Cincinnati right now, man. Luke Fickell. I mean, he's got them ranked. I think they're ranked 6th in the country right now. Luke Fickell, like, you know, I don't necessarily.
Who would have thought, you know, back in, what was it, 2013? Yeah. Something like that?
2011, man.
Was it 11? I couldn't remember the actual. I knew it was somewhere right in there.
Yep. I know.
I mean,
we got to.
I'm with you. We're looking down the road a little bit. You know, does it happen? Did they get rid of Harbaugh this year, next year? Who knows?
I think they got to, man. I think they got to. It's to a point of embarrassment and underachieving year after year after year. I think you have to wipe that Michigan mantra, that Michigan man mantra, you know, I'm a Michigan man. We only have Michigan men coach at Michigan. No, it ain't working anymore. So let's start a new tradition. How about we start a tradition of winning? How about that?
Well, right, and I agree with that. And here, I'll go back real quick that way. You know, just what you said. Do they fire Harbaugh? I don't know. If they do, okay, nothing I can do about it. I'm at this point, I'm either for or against it. I really don't know because do I want him gone? Do I want the rebuilding and all that comes along with it? Not really. But has he proven himself? No. He's really not proven much of anything, to be quite honest. Going back with what you said, Fickell's done a great job at Cincinnati. I mean, was he great in the 1 year that he was at Ohio State? No. But he kind of got tossed into that position, and that's neither here nor there. It wasn't a great outcome in their situation. But obviously, what they got since then has worked very well. PJ Fleck, I would be fine with PJ Fleck. Like I said last week, I thought he's done a great job at Minnesota with what he's had in the last couple of years. Lincoln Riley, I would love to see Lincoln Riley up there. Like you talked about, I love that offense that he just, it's just a constant, man. Constant points on the board, fun to watch, fast, moving the ball down the field. And that's what you said, what it takes right now. You know, you've got to score. The timing of national championships being, 7-10 and 13-10 and these low-scoring games, defense wins championships, but that doesn't mean that you only give up 10 points. Right. You might have an – just because you're a great defense doesn't mean you might be going against the best offense that the league's got to offer, and they might still throw up 30 points on you.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that your offense can't score 40. So, with that, I love Lincoln Riley, what he's doing out there. It'd be great to see him up there. But, like we talked before, with his buyout clauses and everything, I can't see that happening. Venables, I have no problem with going after him if that's what it comes down to. And like you said, some people, you are going to have those few people who don't want to be a head coach. They want to chill in the limelight, in the background and not be in the limelight, but get their point, across and do what they need to do. But that's not everybody. Most people want to be the head coach. They want their 10 minutes of fame or however many years of fame that they might get. And for someone like in his position, it may not take a whole lot of what you think because, let's just say, David Sweeney ain't going nowhere.
Right.
So, obviously, he's not going to be coaching at Clemson anytime soon as far as the head coach goes. So, you roll in and you throw a little bit of money at him and be like, look, this is Michigan. Most people, are going to be like, wow, especially if they're not a head coach already at a big program. So, it might work if that's the route that they decide to go. And if they do, I can't blame them if that's the way it goes because, again, Harbaugh has proven nothing other than that he can beat mediocre teams. For someone who's been such a QB guru, I haven't really seen much of anything since Andrew Luck, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I mean, he coached Kaepernick up there that one year and did a pretty decent job with him. I know his name's kind of taboo now, but he played pretty well for him. But yeah, he had a great year with Jake Rudock, Jake's first year. But since then, it's just been downhill. I don't get it. I think he's that old school mentality. He's that old school Bo Schembechler, 3 yards in a cloud of dust type of guy that unfortunately he's too stubborn to adapt with the new game. I think the new game has just passed him by. Unfortunately, I think he's better suited. Maybe, the Lions continue to stink. Maybe he says, you know what, they're going to get rid of Matt Patricia here in Detroit. I'm going to go ahead and maybe I'm a candidate for that job. I go ahead back to the NFL where he doesn't have to worry about the recruiting and all that stuff. Maybe, maybe that's taking a toll on him. Maybe he's just not, he just doesn't have that fire anymore, man. I don't know.
I agree.
I don't know what happened. But again, it's not working, so I think it's time. I can't be that apologist anymore. Not that I've ever been that apologist, but I've been that guy like, I think once he gets it, well, at 6 years, man, other
you
teams
should have had it by now.
Other teams do it, their first year. I get, he didn't step into Columbus. He didn't step into Tuscaloosa. He didn't step into, Clemson. He didn't step into those places where they were already just ridiculously good. Because again, the Rich Rod and the Hoke years, unfortunately, and even the end of the Carr, the end of the Carr era where he kind of left the cupboard bare. If you look at Carr's recruiting the last few years, it wasn't great. So since 2006,
and they could have had some decent recruits there. I mean, I think more than anything, and I was going to talk about this before, but we kind of got off subject when you were talking about Rich Rod before. When you leave. You come out of the Carr era, and they had some decent recruits there. But, and like you talking about, going down and getting Les Miles, and that obviously that should have been, any Michigan fan knows that should have been who was Michigan's next coach after Lloyd Carr. And obviously things happened, and that's not the way it played out. But then you go out and, for anyone locally that, around me anyways, because of where I live in West Virginia, may hate this, may not hate this. Personally, I hate it because, number one, they go out and get Rich Rodriguez. Huge name at the time. I mean, huge name. Almost played for a national championship at that. And don't get me wrong, I really think that there was something going on with that last game that he coached at West Virginia when, after that he lost. Then they said, hey, he's going to be the next Michigan coach, but that's neither here nor there. But great offensive-minded coach. Defense, I don't think he even knew what defense was. But when they hired him, the whole scheme, just that in general, the scheme of Rich Rodriguez versus Lloyd Carr, that's night and day. That was huge with the recruiting and the players that they already had in Michigan. Your redshirt freshmen and sophomores, and people who were already there. Because when they named him the starter or the coach, you've got Ryan Mallett.
Yeah.
Who, maybe not a lot of people know Ryan Mallett. He had a little bit in the NFL, but he's a 6'3", 6'4", number one pocket passer coming out of high school. Commits to Michigan, and then when they named Rodriguez head coach, it's like, hey, we have a 6'4" pocket passing quarterback, and you run a spread offense.
Yep.
So Ryan Mallett decides to transfer. And now, like you said, now your cupboard's bare. Because I don't know if they even had another person behind Mallett. And if they did, it probably didn't really make a difference.
Yeah,
but the whole scheme, just the whole scheme there. I mean, going from a pro-style, I-form, I'm going to run it down your throat team. And then, play action pass, that kind of team. And now you completely bring in a coach who's going to run spread offense, way spread offense, and could care less about defense. It's just completely different.
Absolutely. And that was a huge problem with, part of that was Rodriguez's fault too, because you have to adapt to your players. Okay, I'm coming into this situation. I'm going to start recruiting players to mold to my scheme. However, that's not what I got right now. I have this kid, and I think Mallett might even have been like 6'7", dude. He was a huge kid. I got this big old dude with a rocket arm who was a top recruit. Let me work around him and, still put in pieces of the spread. You look at Lloyd's last game against Florida when they beat him in the bowl game. They ran a spread offense with Chad Henne.
They did, and they killed Florida during that game.
Right, and it worked. So why couldn't Rich take pieces of that and implement that and slowly put in his system too? But instead of Mallett, we get Stephen Threet and Nick Sheridan and just a season of just like, what? Like, I knew it was going to be a rebuild, and let's not go down that.
I did too, but I didn't think it was going to be that bad.
And that's what,
of course, Mallett transfers to Arkansas and throws for, 3,000 yards or something like that?
He's a great quarterback, man. He really could have been if he was under Lloyd, say, in 2001 era, something like that, when Navarre was there, or people like that, man, he could have lit up the Big Ten, but unfortunately he came along right at that wrong time, and he left us, and I don't blame him for leaving. Heck, he had to,
either.
You have dreams of going to the next level, and you realize this new coach is coming in, and you're not going to be throwing like you should be. Take your ball and go, man.
If I'm a 6'7" pocket passer, there's no way I'm going to be running a spread offense. I'm out. Right. That's just my thought.
So that's the issue to me. That set it back just years, and unfortunately we haven't. There's been a couple glimpses under Harbaugh. Yeah, I know he's won 10 games 3 times. I get that, but it's just not to that point. He's not even been close to competing for a Big Ten title, let alone a national title. The bowl games have been atrocious. Neutral field games have been pretty much crappy. But anyway, man, that's my thoughts on that. I think it's time to I think the fishing's over, to be honest. I think it's time to cut bait. But let's go on to a little different topic to keep our Buckeye fans that we have on here listening a little bit. And let's go to that game. That was the only other game that I watched fully yesterday, was the Ohio State-Penn State game. Ohio State going into Happy Valley. Totally different atmosphere with no fans there, obviously. For some reason, Penn State has been the team that plays them the toughest the last 5 or 6 years. Ohio State usually comes out on top, but Penn State's always right there in the game. And yesterday, it was a close game, 13 points, but it really wasn't a close game. The final score wasn't indicative of the blowout that it was in my mind. That Ohio State team, man, obviously as Michigan fans, we're gonna be. It's hard to talk about. Man, why can't we be that good? But I'm jealous. I'm not afraid to say it. I'm jealous of them winning year in, year out, top program, top coaches. It's just unbelievable how they can just plug and play. They don't miss a beat. They go into Happy Valley and win 38-25. First play from scrimmage, they run like an end around for 62 yards. First offensive play. And I think it took them 3 plays to score. All of a sudden, 7-0. It's like, my goodness. This must be what it must be like to be a fan of a program like that and never really worry, to be able to nitpick. Oh man, I thought our defense did this. It's like, well, you win. You know what I mean? It's to be able to be in that position to nitpick little things must be amazing. Did you watch any of that game last night?
I saw a little bit of it, not much. But again, like you say, they're just a team right now. They're and I'm not trying to compare them to the top teams. I'm just saying they're on par with your Alabama and your Clemson and your, for the most part, Oklahoma right now. But some of these bigger teams where they are very well coached, and they have been for the past quite a few years. They have the name, the national name, so they get these big recruits, and they do find some recruits who aren't as big name, but they develop them very well. I mean, super well.
All coaching, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's just what it is. It's all coaching. You've got the Boses and the these other big name kids who come in there and they do what they're supposed to do because they are coached well. But then you also have some of these other lesser 3-star kids who aren't recruited well, but they coach them so well that they end up going in the draft, and you're like, who the heck is this kid, and where did he come from? Just like this, this wide receiver they have right now, Olave.
Oh man,
kid. I mean, I'm wanting to say he was a 2. He was either a 2 or a 3-star recruit. Hardly recruited by anybody, but the kid is lighting it up. I mean, he is just being a stud right now, and that's all coaching. That is straight up. That's him saying, I'm going to come in and do everything that I can to make myself better, and that is the coaches saying, we are going to do everything that we can to make you better, and them actually doing it. That's the ticket right there, is for the coaching to actually do what they're saying and make these kids better.
Put them in a position to succeed. That's what you have to do. Put them in that position to succeed. And if they're good, that talent's going to take over and win out, man.
Yeah, and that's what they do right now. That's what they are doing. That's what Ohio State's doing. That's what Clemson and Alabama are doing. And don't get me wrong. I mean, Alabama and Clemson right now, they don't have to sell themselves on anything whatsoever. I mean, look at just the national titles in the past 4 or 5 years.
Absolutely.
But they back it up.
Absolutely.
They get these kids. And these kids could come in and be like, I'm gonna win a national title, but I'm gonna be on a team that wins the national title. I'm not going to be a part. I'm not really going to do a whole lot. But they don't. They come in and they strive and they make themselves better and they try to take over that position that's ahead, that person that's ahead of them in that position, which just makes the whole team better in general.
That's a big thing I see with programs like that is you don't see kids entering that transfer portal. You know what I mean? You don't see that often in Clemson, Alabama, Columbus. You don't see those guys, well, I'm out of here. No, they want to stay and be part of something big. Okay, I have to wait a year or two. I'm going to do that, but I'm going to stay and I'm going to wait my turn. And when it's my chance, man, I'm going to get my chance to shine. We're going to win, and I'm probably going to go to the next level. I mean, there's good fortune, obviously, with Ohio State. Can you imagine? I mean, Joe Burrow wasn't, he wasn't the man there, didn't even hardly play there. Goes on to LSU, wins a daggone Heisman. Now he's playing lights out for the Bengals, And, it's like,
Oh,
man,
absolutely.
that kid didn't even get a chance to really start in Columbus. And then, lucky for them,
Yeah.
here comes Justin Fields, 5-star
Right.
recruit from Georgia. Oh, guess what? I'm going to go ahead and leave, and I'm going to go to Columbus. Of course you are. And it's fit. He's fit in. Right now, he's the Heisman
Done a very good
Trophy.
job.
He's the Heisman Trophy front runner. I mean, the kid's lights out. He throws a great deep ball. He was 28 for 34, 318 yards, and 4 touchdowns last night. I think last week he had 1 incomplete pass. I think he was 20 for 21 or 21 for 22. I mean,
Yeah, it was insane.
to have 7 incompletions in your first 2 weeks, come on, that's unreal. The kid's a stud. He seems like a good kid. Like you were talking about, Chris Olave, he had 7 catches for 120 and 2 touchdowns last night. And then you come in with this running back who looks like a UFC fighter, Master Teague. Master Teague,
Yeah.
maybe the best name in all of football.
I thought he was a rapper.
Oh my gosh, right? He made him say
Oh, it's Master P.
Yeah, we just did a Master P reference in 2020, and I apologize to everybody listening. But Master Teague was 23 carries for 110 yards, man, and he was just an absolute beast. But like I said, they come out, they get up get up early, 7-0 on the first 3 plays. But they go into halftime up 21-6, and I mean, it was kind of a fluky play at the end of the half where they took a knee, left 1 second on the clock. Penn State came out, kicked a field goal, made it 21-6.
Right.
Kind of a fluky play. But man, it's just demoralizing when you come out and you get a good team, which Penn they're a good team. They had that loss the week before. They're kind of reeling, but they always play hard. Franklin always gets them to play hard. I think they're going to bounce back, and they'll probably be over 500 this year. But man, they just
Not for sure.
it's demoralizing when you come out and you get behind so quickly to a team you're going to have to. He went for a 4th down early in the game and turned it over on their own side of the field because he's like, man, we got to stay with them. We've got to score for score if we're going to try to win this game. And unfortunately, in the first half, they just looked, like I said, 21-6. Clifford didn't look good at all. But they did come out the second half and played pretty well. They found some openings, some crossing routes across the middle. Clifford found his receivers open, and he ended up with a decent game, 18 for 30 for 281 yards and 3 touchdowns. He threw a pick on the last drive of the game, which sealed it for the Buckeyes. But man, it's just that Buckeye defense. My gosh, it's an embarrassment of riches. To me right now, if they're not the best team in the country, they're probably number 2. Clemson had a shootout. I don't know if you saw the Clemson score, but they went in.
I didn't see any of it. My cousin Jamie, he sent me a message, and he was like, "Are you watching the BC Clemson game?" And of course, I'm like, "No, I'm watching this Michigan crap show that's going on right now."
Right.
Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, BC's up like 28, was it 27, 2010? I can't remember the exact score." But it was, they were winning. I was like, "Don't worry, they'll come back." I mean, it's Clemson.
Right. Yes. They were down 28-13 at half, man.
Because good teams, that's what they do. They adjust and they come back. And they make the good adjustments they need to do to come back and win the game.
100%. That's exactly what I told my dad. It was 28-13 Boston College at halftime. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence was out because of COVID. So you have a new kid coming in, making his first start. There's going to be some jitters there, obviously, but again, it's Clemson. They're never out of the game with Etienne being the running back and I mean their offensive line, their defensive line, they're so, again, another embarrassment of riches. So, that young quarterback, man, I can't pronounce his last name. I'm not even going to butcher it.
I'm not trying.
It's like DJ Uagalele or something like that.
Yeah, we'll just go with DJ.
Yeah, right. I mean, he ended up 30 for 41 for 342 yards and 2 TDs, filling in for Trevor Lawrence and bringing the team back for a win. That's impressive. And that saved their season because you go down there and unfortunately, fortunately for our buddy Josh, Trevor Lawrence is not going to be back next week either, and that's the Notre Dame game. So to get DJ that experience this week so he can go play Notre Dame is going to be huge, I think.
Yeah, that's big for him, and especially to be able to bring the team back, from being down and to come back and win that game. That's a huge boost for his confidence in his first start, and it's going to be a huge momentum, bringing the momentum from this game to that game because they're going to need it playing Notre Dame.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Back to the Penn State game for a second. I don't know if you saw highlights of it, but the Penn State receiver, Jahan Dotson, did you see any of him?
I did not.
Dude, oh my God. I think it was on back-to-back plays late in the game. The dude made a one-handed catch left-handed, and then he made a one-handed touchdown catch right-handed. Just unbelievable. The kid had 8 catches for 144 yards and 3 touchdowns. Once we're done with the podcast, type that into the internet, man. Go search, go Google that thing, and check out those highlights because they were 2 unbelievable catches.
That's good for him. I mean, like I said, I didn't see it, but those kids who can catch the balls like that, like the Odell Beckham and the other people that just have those one-handed catches. I mean, it takes me two hands to barely catch a ball, let alone one hand to just grab it out of the air.
Unbelievable. I mean, just the best catch I've seen so far this year was the right-handed catch for a touchdown. It was just amazing.
I'll have to look at that.
But let's round out, man. Talk about the rest of the Big Ten. Again, we thought we beat a good Minnesota team last week. They go out and kind of lay an egg on the road, miss an extra point in overtime because kickers. And, they lost 45-44. Indiana.
I did watch that.
I watched a lot of it. Didn't see, just obviously I saw the ending where the guy missed the extra point, and that's so unacceptable. I don't understand it, but again, we won't get on that. We won't get on that kicker.
As a kicker, you should never miss an extra point from the 2. When the ball snapped at the 2-yard line. I'm sorry, that's a given.
Unbelievable. Then you got Indiana, beating Rutgers pretty handily, 37-21. Penix had a pretty good game. Indiana might be for real, man. I don't think they're going to challenge for the, they're not going to win the division. Obviously, Buckeyes got that wrapped up already. That whole Big Ten is theirs. No, I don't see anybody in the league being any closer.
I don't either.
I don't see anybody being any closer than what Penn State was last night. I think 13 is about as close as anybody's going to get.
Yeah.
Purdue beat...
I don't know about Wisconsin because obviously they didn't play yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really get to see a whole lot of their first game. Just the highlights I saw, they looked decent. Quarterback looked pretty good. They might be able to give the Buckeyes a challenge. I don't know if they play them this year in the regular season, but obviously my guess is that they're probably going to have that division. So they will probably be meeting the Buckeyes in the championship game.
Maybe.
So,
if this quarterback doesn't come back, man, he's out for, I think they said he's out for at least 3 weeks because the Big Ten has a different protocol. I think it's a 20.
Yeah, it's like 21 games.
21 days,
or 21 days, I'm sorry, yeah.
So if he doesn't come back, Northwestern, man, they might be the team that represents that side. They beat Iowa yesterday 21-20, came back from 17 down. Iowa's starting off 0-2. Is it time for maybe Ferentz to kind of step away from that program? He's been there he's right at his 20-year mark.
Ever.
I know, right? And then the other score, Purdue beat a depleted Illinois team 31-24. Obviously with Brandon Peters being Illinois' quarterback, I kind of watched them occasionally just to see how he was doing.
He tested positive for COVID.
He tested positive as well, so he was out. I didn't see any of that game. Obviously after the Michigan game, I watched bits and pieces here and there, but I went and handed out some Halloween candy uptown and just kind of tried to get that nasty taste of that game off my mind. But new AP poll come out today. Obviously, Buckeyes are still at number 3. Wisconsin, who was idle, didn't play because of the COVID testing and stuff. They're at number 10. Indiana moved up to 13. Man, Indiana is the 13th ranked team in the country right now. And Michigan dropped all the way down to 23, which if they would have dropped out, I would have been perfectly okay with. I don't think they're a top 25 team right now. I think they're pretty, they have to win a few more in a row, which, they play Indiana next. And Indiana's, Michigan's a 2-point favorite at Indiana. So that was kind of shocking.
Yeah, I'm surprised at that. With Indiana going and beating Penn State and then coming, getting a win this week, pretty handily win. They didn't have an issue there. But Penix is a good quarterback. The system they run, I think, could give Michigan a fit because of the running quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, it seems that teams with running quarterbacks really throw a wrench into our defensive scheme. I don't know if it's because of all the aggressiveness and the blitzing that we do, and when you get people in the backfield where the quarterback can just roll out and run. Then you don't have the defenders, obviously, in the back there because they're all blitzing. I think that's what really gives us a fit. So I don't like the matchup against Indiana this week. I hope that they can win, but I'm not. I don't think it's. I think it's going to be a fairly close game. I really do, and I hate to say that, but I think it is.
For some reason, man, I'm gonna let's go ahead and throw out our predictions. You know, at the end of each week, we'll throw out. First of all, we'll go back. Let's talk about our players of the game.
Let's finish the Big Ten first.
That's Big Ten's done. That was
finished the Big Ten, all of them.
That was the finale. Yeah, there were a couple games that weren't played. Obviously, Nebraska didn't play. We touched on the Ohio State Penn State game. So yeah, that was everybody in the Big Ten. Let's talk about our predictions. Let's talk about our players of the game. So let's start first. Give me your player of the game for the Michigan State-Michigan game.
Do I have to pick a Michigan player?
No. Anytime we talk about the game, man, give whoever you want.
I'll give you offensive and defensive. And this should be a no-brainer for anyone who watched it. Ricky White on offense was ridiculous. Now, obviously, you got to have a quarterback to throw the balls up, but you also have to be able to make those catches. So, in my opinion, with the time that Lombardi had to drop back and throw the ball, and it really didn't take much time for him to take 3 steps and throw the ball up. Ricky White, 8 catches, 196 yards, and a touchdown. Not to mention just the fits that he gave our corners and us having to hold him and interfere with him. If it wasn't for the penalties, he probably would have had more yardage. So, in my opinion, offensive player of the game, Ricky White for Michigan State.
Absolutely.
And defensive, I'm going right back to Michigan State again. And we talked about this earlier. Simmons, dude, that kid was all over the field. I mean, I felt like he played every position on the field. They called his name continuously.
Absolutely.
In the backfield, back where the safeties are supposed to be, getting tackled. What did he have, 11, 12 tackles?
11 total tackles.
Kid was all over the place, and the one play obviously that stands out in my mind is the pass that Haskins threw that he tipped and knocked down. That was a huge change of the game, and quite possibly could have been the play that saved the game.
Absolutely.
So Simmons, in my mind, is the player of the game.
I'm right there with you. Those are my two. Those are my two as well. White looked great. Lombardi, who's more of a tool than Jimmy Clausen, and I don't know how that's possible.
Yes, I completely agree.
He was 17 for 32, but man, I think anybody could have lofted a couple of those balls up there as bad as our DBs played.
I agree. Because, like I said, Ricky White's the one who went up and got him.
Absolutely. He made some great catches. Ricky White by far is the offensive player of the game. And Simmons, kudos to him. Good for him. Coming from Ann Arbor Pioneer, you can't miss out on that kid. He plays right across the street. He should be playing for you. And he comes in there and basically, takes your lunch money is what he did. He's going to have that memory forever, and he deserves it, man. He walked off with that Paul Bunyan trophy. And, for me, again, congratulations to that kid. But new little wrinkle this week, the Seth Brookhuizen player of the week was Vincent Gray. He just got embarrassed. Yeah. He got embarrassed. He got. I've never seen a defensive back play that bad. I've seen some bad defensive back plays back to Dustin Fox days in the Ohio State. I don't know if you remember Dustin Fox, but he used to hold every play. But my goodness, I just feel bad.
I really like the Seth Brookhuizen Award. I think that's going to have to be a staple.
I think so. I mean, I told you we have to get Seth into every podcast, and what better way than just have a Seth Brookhuizen Award?
Yes. The Seth Brookhuizen Award for the player who just absolutely forgot how to play football for the week.
And this is nothing against Seth Brookhuizen personally. Obviously, the kid I'm sure he's a great kid. Hopefully, he's doing well with his life right now. But please never come back to an alumni and try to kick any field goals or anything like that. So yeah, man, let's wrap it up with predictions for next week. Michigan, Indiana. Currently, Michigan's a 2-point favorite because I'm not sure why, but I guess you just taking.
I don't really understand that either.
I don't know, but what's your prediction for next week's game? Give me a score.
Oh man, I said before, I don't really like this just because I think Penix is that they have that offense that just, when the quarterback runs the ball a lot, it really throws sprinkles in the defense. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I hope that Colin Brown can get some things straight. Maybe we can get enough pressure actually in the backfield to not allow him to get out on the edge and run the ball, because I don't really think his passing game is that great. Mm-hmm. So I think we're ranked behind them right now, going to their place. 2 points. I don't really understand, like you said, how we're 2-point favorites, but I'm going to hope that Michigan will win, and I'm going to say they win, and I'm going to call it fairly close. I'm going to probably say 24-21.
Okay, man. Shockingly, I'm going to go. I don't think it's going to be close. I don't know why. I think we're going to bounce back. I think Cam McGrone, who I hope is healthy, and Michael Barrett, I think they're going to contain Penix. Again, he doesn't throw very well at all, unless he throws toward Gray, unfortunately. Hopefully Gray can get some things figured out this week. But I think Cam McGrone and Barrett they're gonna contain the quarterback when he does try to run. And I think Michigan's going to come back out, and I think they're going to come back out hot, man. I think they're going to win 38-17. Not being a homer, not being a homer. No. But I just think I don't think they're going to lose 2 in a row. I think there's going to be a fire lit under some guys, especially after that. They need it. Defeat last week. They're either going to roll over and they're going to go lay another egg, or they're going to say, "Man, we got to turn our season around right now." Because you go 1-2, you still got Wisconsin, you still got Penn State, you still got Ohio State. That could get ugly quick. So I think you gotta make some adjustments. You gotta come out swinging for the fences this week, and hopefully it goes their way. But I'm gonna say 38-17, man.
I like it.
I hope you're right. I think our running backs are gonna have more of a role. I think they're gonna stick with Haskins as the number one. I think Corum's going to get some more touches. And I'll tell you, Roman Wilson, I love it. He's my player of the week for Michigan. I thought, okay, this kid, man, true freshman, coming in, playing really well, making the catches. So I like him a lot. Hopefully he'll get some more looks this week. But, yeah, man, so that was week 2. Again, it didn't go the way we had hoped. But we'll be back here for week 3 next week. Hopefully we'll have a win to talk about and keep it going from there, man.
Sure. Certainly hope so. And Adam was a little nervous about doing the pick tonight, so he said he will probably do it next week.
Okay.
So maybe next week we'll have a guest.
Absolutely.
Guest picker.
I like it
on the show.
I like it, man. Work those jitters out. He can come on after a win. I like it. I like that better. He'll come on after a win and give us a pick.
That sounds good.
All right, buddy. So until next week when we do it again, go Blue.
Go Blue.
Well, there you go, guys. That's the episode for today. Thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it. We hope you're digging what we're doing. One thing I do want to mention, obviously tomorrow's a big day. I'm not getting political. I'm not going to talk politics on the show. The only thing I'm going to say is get out there and vote. I don't care who you're voting for. I don't care your party. I don't care what you believe in. Just get out there and support what you believe in. If you want to be able to say you had a voice in it, if you want to complain, if your candidate doesn't win, if you want to complain, if you want to cheer, jeer, whatever you want to do is fine as long as you cast that vote. If you don't get out there and you don't cast that vote, in my mind, you have no right to complain. This is probably the craziest election maybe ever, obviously in my lifetime. So again, I don't care what you believe or who you support, but get out there tomorrow if you haven't already. Get out there tomorrow and make your voice heard. Cast your vote. And again, guys, until next time, for my co-host Bub Dunn, I'm Brent Ewing, and thanks for listening to Brent Ewing's Hey Buddy podcast.